Good evening, and I'd like to call to order the evening session of the July 21st, 2025 Commissioners meeting. Welcome everyone who is here. Good to see you this evening. Also welcome to those online. Thank you for tuning in. It is traditional for us, we open our morning session with the invocation and the pledge, and we've done that. We won't do that again this evening. And the final thing before we begin, I did want to remind everyone of the 6 board priorities. They are educational funding, infrastructure, financial stewardship, land use, public safety, and our county employees. And we will hear some of that woven through our meeting tonight. We will move on to the first item, which is approval of tonight's agenda. Is there anything we need to discuss on that?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Next up, we have public comments. This is a time for the public to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the board tonight during public comment? All right, and Madam Clerk, we did not receive any emails this, okay. So there's no emails for public comment. And then we will move on to a final report on our master plan. Josh Bennett with Mosley is here to present that to us. And barring the little light yet orange tie that he said would be darker orange next time for those of us who prefer a certain college in Clemson.
Preferably one in the mountains of Virginia.
Touche.
Did I just blow it?
Touche.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you all for having me tonight and for the opportunity to present this master plan project to you. We've really enjoyed the collaboration with Johnston County over the last year and are very proud of what we've been able to produce. I can speak for those members of our office who've had a chance to see the vision that you all have helped create and foster for your county, and it really is exciting, and to have the opportunity to carry it through is a monumental thing for all of us. So with that,
We're going to see how good you are now.
it's so good. I can paint you a picture. See, and that's what blew it. You're right. Yeah.
Here you go.
I went out of state for it. And
Here you go. We had a coworker one time that the power went out at the start of a presentation at a conference, and
that,
he went straight on through.
he just kept on
He
going.
talked, yeah, he talked his way through
It's
it.
a big site, and my arms only go so far.
Yeah.
So I have had interviews before where I've had to do it all on my own, but I would like you to see what we got. So.
Yeah, I'll just leave it like that.
Yeah. That works beautifully. Thank you so much. Well done.
That's a new paradigm.
Awesome.
He didn't have a lot of choice there, did he? Try that. Yeah.
All right, so again, I'll remind everyone, we set out with 4 very simple objectives for this master plan. We wanted to create an environment that was safe, efficient, that we were forward-looking, and in a place that was beautiful. So we identified the pieces of property that we were going to assess there in dark green. You can see we've got a considerable amount of property to the east and south of Yelverton. On the left-hand side or the western side of Yelverton Road, we identified that property as being useful for some more of our maintenance functions, and that we were going to focus our efforts on the eastern side of Yelverton to the north of the tree line. So we refined a master plan that took those 4 objectives and broke them down and defined them as being easily navigable by car and foot, that it had phased development, we had sustainable and efficient use of land, and that we provided amenities that encourage connections to the outdoors for people that work there and for the residents of Johnston County. We developed 5, really more than 5, but 5 overarching plans of how we were going to approach the configuration and use of this property, as well as did an update to all of our space needs for the county departments. to ensure that we had sufficient space today and into the future represented in each of those options. And so from that selected option, we built these diagrams to describe how we arrived at the preferred option, which was option 4. And so we looked at defining a tight development area that was offset from the roads that still maintained a certain amount of green space. We had 2 axes for entrances to the property, and we established that around a boulevard that aligned with the administration building, giving that prominence on the site. Around those 2 axes, then we organized the health department building, the DSS building, and the land use building. And then we arranged parking so that it was both accessible and near to the buildings, as well as being secure for both residents' use and for staff use. I'll say now, we do represent the parking decks on here. That is a very future-looking effort. It's not something that we've proposed for today, but this is looking at a build-out that can occur over a long period of time. Along the car routes, we also organized a pedestrian spine that connects the buildings and minimizes the travel distance for people when they're navigating the site, and then considered the potential for future expansion if additional property became available or if we needed to have another building on that site. And so this is what option 4A looked like. We broke down the occupants of each of the buildings that were represented so that we have all of the administrative functions covered. And then in conversations with commissioners and with staff, we wanted to make sure that we continued beyond the 20 years that our space needs identified. So we said, what would it look like if we included third-floor shells on all of these buildings? We've cleared that with the town of Smithfield and their zoning. We can apply to get those third floors on all of the buildings, and it will obviously provide a significant amount of space, taking Johnston County well into the future beyond the 20 years that we've already projected. We provided some cost estimates and budgeting tools for the county's use. This is half of a much larger document that takes these numbers out 20 years total. This looks at the first 5 years. All this does is say, here's what we think these buildings cost today. Here's what they will cost year over year the further out they push based on set escalation rates. Right now we're using 3.5%. We can adjust this cost model to work with the county to make sure we're hitting the correct planning horizons. The numbers represented here also, it's worth noting, are not construction, but they are all in. This is a number that we fully anticipate if we were to execute one of these today, we would come in well under these numbers because they include contingency, design, furniture, soft costs, including the construction costs. And then finally, the really great work that our graphics folks have done in-house in crafting what this vision could look like, clearly demonstrating that central boulevard coming up to the administration building. You can see there the DSS building, social services building, complemented by the health department, and then a smaller child services building next to that that we did include, and then there's the land use building off to the right. And then trying to communicate what that central pedestrian spine looks like and how that will work within the site. And then a little bit of a look at DSS and how that space can function and the incorporation of greenways and amenities into the project. And then, of course, I think we've identified the first phase of this would naturally be bringing utilities to the site, producing some sort of infrastructure, and then construction of that DSS building to alleviate some of their current space challenges. I'll leave you with that final image of the entry boulevard and take any questions you all may have.
Any questions for Mr. Bennett?
It's amazing to see the vision really coming to life on paper.
Right.
Yeah.
So I will ask, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I like it. I like the whole concept. It's fantastic.
I would just, a couple of questions, both related to access. The one, access now from 70 business, is it line up with the 911 communications, or is it offset?
It is offset today. That may change, and it can change at really any moment over the next several months of design.
And I guess the other question I had was the access to the back. Is there any, and I know I didn't see any, but I know if you take the access where it is now, you're not going from 70 Business straight to the back. Is that planned would be access from Yelverton?
If I understand correctly, apologies for the
Yeah, there.
speed. You're talking about crossing that little stream
Right.
area back there. We're going to include that now so that we can get all the disturbances and everything taken care of.
Where's that going to take place?
Haven't designed that yet.
Okay.
But we're going
All
to,
right.
we're probably going to sneak it in off of one of the back parking lots there.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't, any other questions?
So
I want to hear mine.
I had a question. The drawing shows the third floor, which is going to be vacant at this time, right?
Yes, sir.
And so would it be, is this particular design, does that add a lot of cost the way it's offset and not just straight up from the outer perimeter of the rest of the building?
Not at a quantifiable amount at this time. We would, personally, I think the angle would need to be discussed just to simplify the construction and the structure. But overall, they're fairly modest in terms of their articulation, and that wouldn't be an exorbitant amount of money to do that offset. We think it has some architectural value when talking to Smithfield because we are limited to 2 stories here, and we would ask for an exception to go to 3. So by stepping it back, we think we can convince them that this is not making them feel as tall.
Okay.
So I
Does that make sense?
guess the numbers said we're 50% of the square footage.
Right.
That looks a little bigger than 50. So the graphic is not,
The numbers,
yeah.
so when you're looking at
yeah,
this.
the third floor is 61 out of 120. Or is that 122 for,
So that's
First and
122
second
over 2 floors.
Okay,
So if you
okay.
take that in half, so it's 50% of the
Gotcha.
122.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just looked at
I
the
knew
red
where
and saw
I
the
panicked.
122 above it. Okay.
You asked and I panicked, so yeah.
All right, good.
That is
So
right.
it
It is a
does look better. That looks
50%
better than-
increase in
Okay.
space. Yeah.
I do think it's important to add that additional space, though, because
I
the
think
way,
so, too.
at the rate the county's growing, and this is the cheapest time to do that is when we're building it initially, than to have to go back at some point and try to add on to another building. So I think I like the idea of having that additional growth space.
I agree with that, but I heard some discussion on the radio the other day where we were talking about the Federal Reserve had remodeled their offices in Washington DC and spent $2 billion, which included some water features and rooftop gardens, and that's why I question, do we really need that type of space?
This won't be $2 billion.
We won't have any space for a rooftop garden. That's on top of the shell.
I'm just saying we need to maximize whatever space we've got,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
taxpayers'
Well, and I
money.
feel like that's what we're doing with leaving the shell space. And what we think we may need it for today may be completely different for more 10 years from now. So
Yes.
I love that we're giving them that opportunity.
Oh, the next board will thank you for it. Yes,
Absolutely.
repeatedly. Yeah.
I have a question about the 2-story limitation.
Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused because I know there's 3-story apartment buildings in Smithfield, and they just recently said they approved a 4-story apartment building. So why is these buildings like these limited to 2-story?
I can't remember the exact zoning nomenclature for this site, but it is, that site in particular has been identified as a 2-story only because of the surrounding residential areas.
Okay, well,
But they've expressed that there's no, they don't foresee a big issue given our distance from other surrounding properties.
all right. That makes sense.
All right. Any other comments, questions?
I agree with April, as what Commissioner Stevens was saying earlier, of how it's been really neat being able to see just a block on a sheet of paper drawn out to now all of a sudden seeing this is really exciting, and the forward thinking of this board to have Johnston County in our hearts and in our minds in 20 years, 50 years. I mean, these buildings are going to last a long time and be a really good investment in the county, and that just because we are going to build new buildings doesn't mean we're going to be demoing other buildings. That other buildings will just now be repurposed and to serve the citizens of Johnston County and not they're not going to be like demoed or torn down, that those are still going to be used as the county grows. And so other departments are going to be able to hopefully fill those needs and being able to hopefully have more space to be able to continue to look after our county employees. So this is really exciting to see all of this versus just a square on a piece of paper. So really neat.
I agree. It's good to see that up there, but the overriding factor is that we are very challenged with space right now. We've got to have more space for all departments, and this was born out of that need. Now we've got to figure out how can we afford it, or put it into a construction plan with sequencing to allow us to be able to reasonably afford it for our taxpayers. And I think it can be done, but it's going to have to be something that we manage very carefully in order to do that, because we've got a lot of needs in this county. But the court system, so they're busting at the seams. They're clamoring, wanting more space. I know the health department and social services are similar. They've got a lot of people basically confined in what look like broom closets or closets in some cases. So there's definitely a need there. We just got to figure out how can we meet that need and do so affordably.
Well, now's the time, and I'll talk about DSS just a little bit. I mean, they're in 5 buildings now, and 2 of which we lease. The county doesn't even own them, so we're renting space in 2 different locations. And to have the employees scattered into 5 buildings is a management challenge. It's an efficiency challenge. And it's also a challenge for the citizens that are coming to receive service. They got to meander, where do I need to go to see this person? And so I just think from an efficiency perspective for our citizens to provide the highest level of service. Also, this plan, the way you've outlined it, it frees up a lot of space in this building, allows the trickle down to move a lot of the management, county management, finance, all those folks out of this building, and let the courthouse be judicial. Let the courthouse be for the court system. And then we can do some renovations here and satisfy those needs. This particular plan addresses a lot of needs that we have, and I think this is a great time to do that. And I appreciate the job that you've done. I think it looks really fantastic. I like the layout. I like the way it's put on the property. I think it'll be an attractive site, but it's not over the top, but I think it's something that the citizens will be proud of for many years to come. So, and I look forward to seeing us move forward with it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Josh, this chart here, those are cost estimates based on time, but it's basically the same plan over time.
Over time, yes, sir.
And I appreciate you putting all those costs, not just the construction, but what it's going to cost to paint it, put the furniture in it, all those little things of building a building. Very appreciative that you're able to put all of that in one number instead of having to have 20 different columns and rows of everything. It helps really make it more realistic too of what the cost is for that building.
Thank you.
I think one thing, Mr. Chairman, and I'm going to stop talking, but I think one of the things that really stands out to me is when you look at the estimates that they've provided, and you look at every year that you put this off of what the increased cost is to do the project. I think when you look at 2025 versus 2031, 2032, it's a significant increase in cost. So, waiting in this perspective is not going to save us money. It's going to cost us more.
Right.
So.
All right, I think, was that 3% escalation?
We're carrying 3.5.
3.5, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? I don't think that we need to do anything other except the report in. And thank you. And I think we'll hear more about the next steps in this next item
Yes,
that you're going to present to us, which is design proposal for DSS and on-site and off-site infrastructure. So, floor is still yours.
All right. I don't have an exhibit for this one. I don't know if I need one, Rick, do I? You've got it. Okay, so we've submitted a proposal as part of our contract for the master plan services. We've submitted a proposal for the first stage of design, which are what we call the on and off-site improvements, and then the design of the DSS building itself. And so what those services encompass are bringing all the utilities to the site, bringing in our main thoroughfares, bringing in the utilities to stub out, setting up our traffic, turn lanes, signalization, all that kind of work. It's going to take several months to complete. And so we've got that rolled into one task item under that proposal. The second task item is the actual design, construction of the DSS building. And I've broken out our proposal for that work very granular in that I show generally the steps that we're going to take to design the project and about what the level of effort is at each of those phases. And I think it's important to note, we believe strongly that when you're designing a project, that the board retain control over the project. And so at each of those phases is a great opportunity for us to pause, come back to you, present our progress, show where we are, and talk about how the project is going, and give you all an opportunity to say we're on the right path, or no, we need to change course. It's also an opportunity for us to assess the costs. However we elect to pursue or procure the construction of this project, we can take that opportunity to either engage with the contractor to talk about where we are, where the market is, and how the costs of the building are coming in, or we can go to an independent cost estimator and receive their feedback on how much they see the project costing. So all that information can be brought to you at the end of each of those design phases. Both of those efforts, on-site, off-site improvements, and design of the DSS building can run concurrently. The construction of that work can run concurrently. If we can get one ahead of the other to save on time or funding or effort or beat the weather, certainly we can do that. But that setup gives us the flexibility to make that decision.
Any questions? I will say that with the construction of the detention center and the public safety, that this phase process in the design and being able to come back and make a presentation and see what the next step is, it allows the board to make the decision to postpone it for whatever reason or to continue on. So I do think that was a lesson learned, at least by me, on that is that is a great idea to come in and you can take that moment to take it in and then make a decision to take the next step rather than be on the train that's headed to nowhere and can't get off. So I appreciate that that's built in.
Well, it's good and bad because you get to tell me what to do, but at the same time, you told me what to do.
It's a double-edged. It is a double-edged sword. You are correct.
That's why cost control is very important.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and this is not for you, but I'm assuming we would have some similar arrangement that we had in the past on the public safety and detention where we have a third party to come in and take a look at that for us.
Yes, sir. That is the goal, and Mr. Boykin is actually here tonight to see the presentation, and he and Daniel would be the ones that we would like to oversee the project, if that's acceptable with the board. And what we were thinking with regards to this, first of all, we wanted you to see the master plan tonight, which you have, and fortunately, the consensus was it was good, and it's been accepted. And so the next step would be... This happens every meeting. Adam actually changed my batteries, and then I'm sitting in a different seat. So it's all my fault. But the plan would be, since you've accepted the master plan, what we'd like to do is bring to you as an agenda item the proposals for the on-site, off-site infrastructure and DSS at your next meeting and let you consider those. Whether or not you'd like to move forward.
Wow. I think there's a Marvel character that drains power as
Right.
maybe that's your superpower there, yeah. All right, so do we need to take action tonight, or will the 4th, we'll take action on the proposal?
Let's bring you the formal documents
Okay.
on the 4th, and then you can approve what you choose to approve.
Okay. Any other questions for
Has there been any recommendation on a delivery methodology for contracts?
Magic. It recharged maybe for a second. What we are recommending is that you do pre-qualification with design, bid, build for at least these two projects, and if you want to change delivery methods moving forward, that would be fine. But that would be staff's recommendation at this point. And certainly the bright side of things is I'm going to collect all the microphones. The fortunate thing is if we get into the process and there are not contractors that you want to pre-qualify, then we can readjust. And if we bid and we don't like what we see, we can readjust. So we've got lots of flexibility, but that would be staff's recommendation at this point. But certainly whatever the board wants to do is what.
And I would just add to that, and Commissioner Stovall can speak to this even better than I can, but typically the other design, build, and construction manager risks are typically to fast track projects, and I don't think that exists. The need to do that exists for this or these set of projects. So
There's not a need to fast track, but there are methodologies in which you've got much more, I guess, contractors' finger on the pulse of the market in terms of material cost and reacting to that I think we need to consider as part of our process in bidding this. I don't know what the volatility of the market is right now, but it's been, my experience has been rather volatile. And I don't see that changing in the foreseeable future. Now, you may have a different opinion.
I agree with you. I think it was indicative in March, I believe, Train issued a notice that they were going to be increasing prices. Steel prices have fluctuated wildly. It can be challenging.
You know, tariffs have an impact on that, up or down. It's hard to predict, but you need to be able to react to it, and it's a whole lot easier to react to it when it's on paper rather than out there trying to come out of the ground.
Yes, sir. That's right.
I'm not going to take a chance on that. But I will say if the board on August 4th approves to move forward, what we would do is have a reimbursement resolution so we can front the design fees for the project, and then it gives us the option for including those into a loan. So we've done that a lot with projects. So, thank you.
All right, very good.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
And then we can still, I think, select the actual method of delivery as we get into the process. So.
That design bid build, is that multi-prime or single prime? Oh,
Yeah, we would propose both the on-site, off-site improvements be kept separate from the DSS
Yes.
building. We don't see any value in combining them. We've talked to several contractors who feel the same way.
right.
So that makes good sense. In terms of the delivery method, I will say, if we're evaluating between construction manager and design bid build, we would recommend that we make that decision by the start of design development. After that, CMAR begins to lose some value.
Right.
So we have plenty of time, and we will certainly keep everyone up to date on where we are with that decision-making requirement.
All right.
Fantastic.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
All right, the next item is an update on our water supply option study, and we have J.D. Solomon here to present that to us.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good news, some progress. Not the whole enchilada, but we've got good progress. And the chair and I have talked, and I think we need to share a few of these things so you guys are aware of it. And hopefully back in August or September to maybe share a more complete story here. Reiterate for the public here, the object of what we're trying to do here is look at the business case for an intermediate approach. Our 50/50 partner here is Clayton, and I think some of you commissioners as well as Clayton had some initial reaction to the first of the big project to make it more affordable. So affordability is really what we're trying to drive at, and you can see the other things that we've given in that time frame. We would like this kind of short to intermediate term to bridge us from 2030 to 2040 timeline, where the big project takes us 2050 and beyond. Conclusion of today's update, we need to continue and complete the financial model. I'll talk about that in a little bit. We're still kind of grinding through that. We've got another meeting tomorrow between the financial consultants with both the county and the town of Clayton. We have talked with Davenport and the other financial folks about the local government commission concurrence. On a project like this, it is a major project, even by the statewide standards. It's a major project, and we've got a partner. So we talked last time that may take 3 to 6 months to do, but Davenport said probably first of the year it may take us to get until we get all the way through the LGC approval. Because we've got to get the financial model figured out, and then we've also got to figure out how we're going to manage this partnership too from a governance standpoint, which is other things y'all have to do. Conclusion I gave you in June is still the same, to acquire up to 6 MGD of whole cell capacity from the city of Raleigh. And we did agree to delay any major capital expenditures until we kind of figure that out till 2033. Originally, when Clayton was having some problems, we had an original deadline of 2030 to get this finished, which was very aggressive. I think all parties have now agreed we could make it to 2033 with some short-term improvements and a little bit of extra risk, but that's makes it more affordable for everybody. So those still are in play. To reiterate the project, you can read that. I'm not going to read it to you. I think the most significant things that may have changed probably is, as we looked at the financial modeling, I was calling it a $700 million project before. That was a number floating around in the model. Just for transparency, it's $770 million now in the model now. And so that's one of those points all the parties need to agree on the financial model. Water demand projections, just give you a reiteration. Clayton area is driving about half of that, thus therefore they're a 50-50 partner. And the way we have, as a commission, pushed the county, pushed everything toward the municipalities, they do bear a lot of the growth in the western part of the county. But we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second, about what Clayton area looks like versus Clayton incorporated areas look like. We'll do it here. I think commissioners, public may not be aware, when we say east and west as far as the water system goes, what you see in pink is the west, and that's chloramine treatment as a final disinfection product to hit it at the end of the treatment process. In the east, we use chlorine. Chlorine works well when you blend it with well water and the way that's treated. And so traditionally, we have had 2 systems within the county. So when we say east and west, we have to get into the technical parts of the chloramine or chlorine, but you can clearly see what water districts and geography are in what we call the west, which often gets referred to as Clayton in some vernacular, but it's really the western part of Johnston County. And to show you how Clayton looks, when you look at all the growth that's going to be happening there, and you see the numbers from the plan that was done by Hazen, you see all the growth in that western part. You see the geography really occupied by Clayton, who's the 50-50 partner. Now, they have some of the big industrials there with the industrial complex and everything there. But clearly, when we start talking about what do you need water in the west for part of the county, it is that whole pink area, including Clayton. So look at some alternatives. I didn't mention that last time, but these have really fleshed out over the last month. So let me give those to you. These are the ones we talked about last time that we had looked at. The Raleigh connection, which is the most viable, which we talked about last time. We already buy some capacity from Raleigh. You can see the 2 options. We can expand 2 more million gallons per day of water down old US 70 and bring it into the heart of Clayton, or we can bring another 4 MGD off of Pool Road into the heart of Clayton. What we know now is that Raleigh's capacity charges, everything we've seen, are better than other people we're dealing with. I'm not going to get into specifics of that as we try to negotiate this out, but they are better than what we see, say, from Wilson. And so for the distance traveled, the affordability, the whole 9 yards, Raleigh definitely looks like our best option right now for some intermediate relief. Legislation has passed and has become law now on the IBTs. So our subbasin in Wilson County gets freed up a little bit now, so we don't have the intertransfer considerations to worry about as much. If you remember, we were about to buy another 500,000 gallons. We buy 1.5 million from Wilson. Now we're going to go buy another 500,000 gallons. That was going to be very expensive. Now that the IBT's passed, we can buy 3 or 4 or 6 million gallons. So we've kind of dropped the half MGD option out. At least I think we have at this point. And if we did something with Wilson, it would definitely be more along the 3 to 4 to 6 million gallons, similar to what we might look at Raleigh. But again, Wilson wants us to pay for things on their side of the border too, not just ours, so that creates some heartburns and some greater expense as well. So again, I don't want to give away everything here. We still want to partner with Wilson. We're still going to partner with Wilson. We'll still negotiate with you, Wilson, but they don't look as good as the first pass being Raleigh right now. Harnett and Dunn, as we have spoken, as this project got started a few months ago, Dunn has talked about doing a new water plant, and so is Harnett, and that's really on the shelf now. There's an advertisement out for the preliminary engineering of that by Harnett County now. So they've become very serious in the past 60 days, and especially in the last 30 days. So we buy 2.5 MGD, or we have 2.5 MGD of purchase capacity in Harnett County's plant, and Benson has 1.2 allocated and uses about 900,000 gallons now. And so there's growth in the southern part of the county. This fits in with the regionalization idea, but it also helps trim a little bit of that capacity long-term off of the big project potentially. So I think I said last time 10 or 15%. So it's not huge, but it does keep all the water kind of in the Cape Fear Basin, and then most of the counties in the Neuse Basin, so we can kind of keep that up with our plant as far as water and wastewater. But this one's happening, and if we look at priorities, if kind of working with Raleigh and Clayton is first priority, this becomes a close number 2 because deals are starting to get cut here between Harnett and Dunn, and the I-95 Alliance is very interested in all this happening too.
So those are two separate flows, the 2.5 and the 1.2?
Yes.
Okay.
So Benson actually buys their water. They have 90,000 gallons with the county that they've purchased, but they buy 1.2 and get 900,000 from Dunn. So Dunn is their primary supplier. Dunn has some extra capacity in their old plant, but they're looking at revising that. Harnett has 2.5 NG they sell us, but we can't really, or we've bought. They really can't push but about 2 over. And those systems are overlapping some out there. So this gives us an opportunity to maybe clean a little bit of that up from a regionalization standpoint too, depending on how we look at capacity. So the goal here, say it a million times, is Benson has the wastewater plant. We keep the wastewater happening in Benson. We would look at maybe returning some wastewater over to Dunn to their plant. Harnett would keep giving us water at one of the plants, and so would Dunn. So short term, we're not going to take anything away from anybody. Long term, it'll start feeling a little bit more regional of how things may look down there. Okay. Goldsboro, still a work in progress. You can see, Commissioner Rose can see this is his backyard. Goldsboro's plant is there on the east side of Goldsboro, or the west side of Goldsboro. So it's a further distance from them to the county line that is from the county line to our future water treatment plant. The limitation here is really the expense for amount of water we would need to get 3 MGDs, about what we could get. And right now, we don't really need that in the Princeton area, so we would still be picking that water up and moving it to the western part of the county. It doesn't make a lot of sense on an intermediate. Now, long-term, that's something else, because Goldsboro is going to look to build a new plant in the future. So if we had this pipeline open, it would give us, short-term, give us an ability to get water open into our county in the short-term, intermediate term, but then long-term, they may become a customer or buy water in our new plant at some point. So there's a longer-term deal there. And they are at their cost estimating how much all this is going to cost to run the pipeline to the county line. So we don't have that back yet, but we should get that by the next time I talk to you anyway. Okay? So those are the major alternatives. I left the one out. The county's looked at a small reservoir near the Tim Broom plant at one point. Clayton's looked at several small reservoirs, and they've looked at the land for that and started talking about people with land. The reservoirs, though, any kind of smaller reservoir takes a pretty long time to permit, so it sort of falls outside of what I'm doing with you right now to look at kind of the 10-year plan, if you will, or so. It would be, to my opinion, more of a 15 to 20-year plan if we tried to build a small reservoir. So those are the 4 major interconnections. Let me stop there and make sure, see if y'all got questions on any of that.
I had two questions.
Sure.
How much water is Johnston County buying right now per million gallons per day?
Total, I'll look at Chandra, because I can tell you which the big four, but I don't know where else you may be buying water from. There's 1.5 from Wilson, there's 2 from Raleigh, there's 2.5 from Harnett. Those are your major.
Okay.
It's like 10 and a
Yeah.
half overall, I think.
Yeah,
6 from Clean Water
Yep.
Districts, 500,000 from Sampson County.
yeah.
Okay.
500,000, and then you got Smithfield too, which is how many? 3?
Okay. And then we would be looking at keeping those numbers the same or slightly increasing that at the 10-year mark?
Raleigh would go, on the 2035 to 2040, would go from 2 MGD now
To
up
6.
to 6.
Okay.
And then if we bought more in the Dunn Harnett thing, we may buy, I don't know how much, but it would be
Okay.
4, something like that, maybe.
Okay. Right.
Does Smithfield have more water that they can sell, or are they capped out at that 3 million?
No, my understanding is they have more they can sell, and some of their plans were made that way, so, I'll look at Chandra for that.
Yeah, and the existing agreement with.
You might come to the microphone. Yeah.
Smithfield might have some extra available right now. Of course, they have their sights set on using more long-term. Our existing agreement with them, I think, has another maybe 10 years on it. There's some of that Smithfield capacity that's ours permanently forever, and there's also some of that capacity has a buyback option for town of Smithfield.
Okay. All right.
One of the things that's happened here, that's also happening in Dunn and Harnett, and why they're having to get together, is the state is really regulating people by how much you can take out of a noose at that point. So we're kind of tapped into how much Smithfield takes when we look to combine utilities. Harnett and Dunn are trying to work that out now, because the state's only going to give them a certain amount out of that general area of the Cape Fear River to pull out.
There's a lot of leaders around here that thinks we really need to put a lot of emphasis on us and Harnett coming together as a regional approach to this. But these other options, of course, tend to take away from that impetus, perhaps. But should we really be, should we be pushing for that Cape Fear
Yes.
Yes.
approach?
Yes, I think the noose is definitely taxed out from a water and a wastewater standpoint. If you could keep, some of that may be noose water that would go back into the Cape Fear, but if you could keep most of the Cape Fear water in the Cape Fear, water and sewer, it's a lot cleaner and a lot more affordable long-term for the county to do that way.
I
Don't have to do it that way, but
yeah,
that's.
I don't foresee it diminishing the potential to, these other options.
I just wonder what we ought to be doing stronger to push towards that regionalization.
Well, I think we need to push, it's kind of 2 bites of the apple. I think you need, for the big water supply project and making it affordable, you need to push hard at one of these other options like Raleigh first and Wilson. But when you look at the long-term regionalization, you need to look at
Right.
Harnett County too. We do, I should say.
Right.
To answer your question, Commissioner Godwin, I think that we, as a county, need to be more focused on having somebody drive that situation on the Cape Fear side, and you got so many partners that are gonna have to be managed together, so there has to be a focus on bringing these entities together and reaching consensus about how this system would look and what type of governance it would have.
Right.
Whereas these other options, it's clear what the governance is, and, it's how much time it would add to our ability to eventually put a long-term strategy in place that's going to meet our needs for the foreseeable future.
That's correct.
I did have a question regarding
Yes.
the 4 million gallons a day in Raleigh. Any rough ideas on capital cost for that?
Yeah, I'll go back to the picture. It's just how things go. That the capital cost on the old 70 down into Clayton to get 2 more MGD there's a couple $1 million. That's capital, plus some annual capacity charges, right? To come from Pool Road down into Clayton, that's about $60 million. Now no, sorry, let me back that up. Back up the previous number. It's about $55 to $57 million capital, but you're going to own the line. So what happens here is we really don't have a big line to get any kind of excess water. If we see any kind of water breakage or our system of network falls down, we don't have anything. That would give us a 36-inch line on the Raleigh side under the Neuse River. That would give us a booster station on the Raleigh side that would boost it into here, and a major 24-inch line that regardless of how much we were purchasing from Raleigh at any given time, that line could be opened up to bring 4, 5, 6 million gallons down on an emergency basis to serve that whole western part of the county. So, you know, there's some advantages to owning that asset. The disadvantage is you're gonna pay yearly capacity charges, and we've talked that over the financial people and the staff, and that takes that's lease money, right? It's like leasing square footage. You don't wanna do that too long. You wanna own your own destiny. And Raleigh wants us to own our own destiny too. They don't want us to be dependent on them. But, you know, when we're playing with a partner's looking at affordability, y'all are looking at affordability, we've got to look at these lease options, because it's almost can be like a rate leveling lease, if you will. It may cost you more, but that may be the way you flatten your rates for a little while till you get your population built back up. So you own that asset, but it will be a cost. Did I answer that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm going to talk about the financial after this, but that's one of the things we want to model in the financial analysis, so you guys can see those results. It may take us a month or two to get back with that, but that's very important to see, as we all know, those financial implications of these short-term fixes or intermediate fixes. Okay? So let me keep going and talk about the financial analysis. Now, this is a little hard to read, but we had a meeting last Tuesday, I believe. Took us a while to get all these people together. It was about 20 people, 5 or 6 consulting firms, it felt like, and 2 major entities with all the finance people. But we did get through good alignment with the Johnston County and Clayton financial model. We're meeting as early as tomorrow to get the financial types back together. Little things, seemingly little things, but they're big things. One group used a 25-year payback, one used a 30. One used 4.5% interest, one used 4. One used $700 million, one used $770 million. So this was the time that we all came together at one point in time, and we'll meet tomorrow, and we'll let that model come back that both parties agree on. Dan will do it for the county. B&B will do a parallel model for the county, for the town, and then we will make sure what we were calling scenarios 1 and 2, which are the major scenarios, all flesh out for the long-term project. Then we'll come back and drop in these alternatives that we can use for maybe some intermediate term solutions. So we're rolling along. There's a lot to do, including down at the bottom you see again from Davenport. Once we get all this done, we've got to go be able to explain this not just to each other, but to the local government commission, kind of arm in arm. So, okay. Moving forward, we've kind of looked at this. Financial models, primary responsibilities will go to staff and consultants, obviously. Local government commission concurrence, be staff and the consultants, including Davenport. And then governance, we really are going to need to get y'all folks as commissioners to sit down with your counterparts at Clayton and say, how does this deal really look? Is it really a 50-50? Is it 60-40? Who's going to be managing financial risk? Who's going to be managing project delivery risk? LGC is going to want to hear this as we go down on this mega project, how all that's going to happen and not slow the project down. So and we'll need your input on these wholesale agreements as we start working with Harnett and Raleigh. Okay. So update that I gave you last time, I think we're into this. The study that we're into now is we are fleshing out the more affordable solutions for short and intermediate term. I think all of this designed to help us get a more robust, if we have a big client come in the western part, we'll be able to take on more. We'll also be more resilient as we get stressed in bad times or stressful times. Having some backup capacity also helps us, or some short-term capacity, intermediate capacity, helps us not have to make snap decisions on the big project. That buys us a little bit of time. We can negotiate with contractors or vendors if things go bad. And we need this time anyway, as we buy at least maybe a couple million from Raleigh to bridge the next 6 months before we get something maybe on the street. So I think I said this last time, but these are some other benefits I think we've pulled together. We're looking deeper at the transmission cost. We're looking better really at trust and support among the elected officials and I think the staffs of both partners in this 50/50 deal. It's a big project for everybody. So that's all I had. Trying not to go too much in the weeds. We had some financial models. I didn't pull those out. Chandra got you this morning with that, I think, with system development fees.
All right, any questions for Mr. Solomon? Yeah, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I haven't heard anything that you said, or anyone else has said that the Lower Neuse project is not needed, is definitely part of our long-term solution. And I think what this board's concern has been, how do we make that as affordable as possible? And thus the other alternatives that you've, I'll say you brought to us tonight and staff's worked on it, those are the other options to consider to at least get us in that, I think you said 2030, 2040.
2040 range is where we're trying to
what you
go
call
to.
intermediate thing.
And I think that's where Clayton's trying to go with their thought processes, get us to 2040 where they can get some population growing a little bit better and get a better handle on their demands too, because they're a big part of this and their demands have not, as we thought last time, their demands have not happened quite at the rate that they would have thought they would have 5 or 6 years ago. So there's a little bit of concern to get something that's not affordable and get too far out in front of the horse. But you can't, all that may come in too, so you got to be ready for both. So that's why I think getting with them, they're talking detailed with, I took it off your draft side, and I didn't want to say they were negotiating, but they're into some weeds now, trying to cut their own deals and get their own self-covered. So we really need to participate with them and make that happen if we can. So, but of course, that's completely y'all's decision, but,
I agree, we don't need to have all our eggs in one basket. We need options available to us, because there's a lot of things that can happen out there that can make one option less attractive and others more attractive. It's a very dynamic landscape.
it is. And again, I'm not looking at the long-term project, but again, there's some of the short-term capacity. We've already laid out maybe to 2033. Maybe you don't need to build 12, you need to build 6. Now, that may not save you a lot of money, but it saves, you get into what that long-term, but to the chairman's point, you've got to do the long-term plan. And I think everybody's contingent on you kind of controlling your own destiny at some point. But this gives you help to get to a point where you can afford it.
I had one question. So I know part of the reason that we're looking at these intermediate approaches is because of that sticker shock of that $700 million plan of what it would do to rates. Are we going to be able to see some potential rate, what's going to happen to the rates with the, say, Raleigh 2 MGD plan or some of the other plans? Can we see how that affects the rates?
Yes, that's the intention, and I think, and they all can shake your head, yeah or no, but the marching order for Clayton N, I think the marching order for Clayton N for y'all has been, you want to see, I've heard y'all say, you want to see if we didn't do this project at all, what just the rate increases would be.
Mm-hmm.
If we did just the water part, what is attributable to the water part, but then what is attributable to the total utility bill, which is water and sewer, right? Because the same people are paying. A lot of people paying both. So Clayton's looked at both as far as water only and water and wastewater total utility bill. And then also brought us back not just in percentages, because percentages are important, but as y'all know, people want to know how much that correlates to dollars out of their own pocket. So hopefully we'll be able to show y'all not just percentages, but, we're moving this up $100 in the next 5 years. That's real money to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think, and this may be more for Ms. Farmer, that what we heard this morning as far as system development fees, we need 20 years of a contract to get that into our system development fees. If it's shorter than that, we don't get there we go.
So our system development fee analysis is based on our 20-year planning period.
Okay.
So what we look at is all of our projects over the 20-year planning period, and then how much water capacity we have available at the end of that 20-year planning period. So the current analysis does not include that short-term capacity from City of Raleigh, because at the end of the planning period, that capacity is not available based on the current negotiations and conversations.
Okay.
We can always revise that if something changes,
Okay.
as we update that analysis routinely.
Just so, and the towns will get what we saw this morning, they will get that tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I anticipate. And to follow up on your question this morning, the system development fees, you asked if we don't go to the full recommended rate, if we step into it based on the current recommended plan, next year, or this fiscal year, based on the growth projections, instead of collecting about $15 million in system development fees, we would collect about $10 million in system development fees. And then next year, the next fiscal year before we would get to the full rate would be about $3 million short of what it could be if we charged the full rate.
Okay.
I don't have the bulk capacity numbers yet. I'm waiting on something
Okay,
from.
well, thank you for the quick response on that. And then I guess the other piece is we're talking about the 4 million from Raleigh and the unknowns right now with that. Is that something, and I know we just gave authorization for 11 miles in Cleveland, is that, I don't know if they would even tie in together, but is that something we could look at along with that? I know there's going to be more engineering fees to go with that, but is that the appropriate place to do that? Or would you rather have something
You're
separate?
talking about the 4 million from.
Yeah, to look at
So,
what that
so
would
the
cost.
intent right now, as JD outlined, is we have two scenarios we are trying to align our models with the Lower News project, with the town of Clayton. So we have these two scenarios. Soon, when we get that aligned, all those assumptions correct,
Okay.
then what we would do is bring in the City of Raleigh option for the additional 4 MGD to see what that looks like in each of those models.
Okay.
But the supply on the Cleveland Road demand, pushing water that way, I mean, that's going to be a necessary project in our CIP long-term either way. But
Okay.
certainly it can be timed as needed based on what we determine on the City of Raleigh.
So we still need to get a little more information before we can take a look. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
The 2 or the 4 would tie in somewhere around US 70 in Clayton, more than it would out of Cleveland.
Okay.
So it would tie in there, and then it would, maybe, it could delay the need. You'd have to look at it in more detail.
Okay.
And Chandra knows more, anyway. The other thing I'd say about system development fees, and again, I'd like to say this, one of the thing is system development fees are people that are redeveloping their land, right? So when you do these expansions, they're going to pay for part or all, not never all of it, but part of it, right? So if you cut those system development fees, it just gives you less cash on hand in the utility, as y'all know, to go out and front end. So what you're going to do is have to borrow more money to get the project done, which means you're going to raise the rates, and then everybody's got to pay for it. So typically that relationship, the system development fees aren't enough to pay for everything, but again, the more you have, the more cash you got on hand, the less you have to borrow. So they become really important if you cap the amount you want to raise rates. You're kind of stuck with system development fees to help shoulder the load. So y'all know all this. I just say that because it's important for the public to know you're trying to balance what's right by all parties. I know you are. So
Yeah, and the public wants to see those impact fees. They're not impact fees, but that's what they want to see.
that's what we used to call
Yeah.
them, but that's not what we call them.
Yeah, that's right.
now. They are system development fees, and they are for growth, right? They're there to handle growth, so, or help handle growth, so. Okay, any other questions?
All right. No, sounds like tomorrow will be another, I won't say, another milestone. I was going to say big step, but another milestone in looking at some of these options, so.
Yeah, it will be.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Bryson, I think you're going to introduce our consultant and an update on our countywide transportation plan.
Yes, sir. Good evening. So we do have Will Edgeworth here with McAdams Company, and he will be updating us on our comprehensive transportation plan. I think we have some good information for you. We do have one item that we do require some feedback or some directive on in this presentation, and then that will get us to a full draft, including that, and we'll be able to bring that forward in the very near future for the board's consideration and for public comment as well. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Will Edgeworth.
All right.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Thank y'all. Good to see you again. Here to provide you a bit of an update on where we're at with the comprehensive transportation plan. We've actually delivered a draft of the study to planning department staff, so we've made very good progress, and we're getting in the short rows on this thing. So as Braston mentioned, we do want to get some feedback from you at the end on adoption schedule. But I'll start, as I have with most of these presentations, with reminding you of the vision, which is to connect the residents of Johnston County through safe and efficient multimodal travel options to destinations within the county and the region while enhancing economic vitality. So I'll give you a couple of stats. I thought it might be interesting now that we've come to the creation of the document to hit you with a few things that I noticed as we were going through the document and points of interest relative to the plan. As I've mentioned to you before, we've had 3 rounds of public meetings, including participation in those public meetings and as well as online survey. We've engaged over 1,000 people in the county. I've told you before, it's difficult at times to get people really engaged in a county-wide planning effort, particularly a transportation planning effort. People tend to get much more engaged when there's an actual project, particularly a project that might be at their doorstep. But I was very happy, particularly after the second push, with the amount of particularly online engagement that we had. So I think it's contributed in a very meaningful way to the plan. The plan itself covers 6 modes, so vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, trains, aviation, and can anybody guess the last one? All right, peds, bikes, cars, transit, rail, and aviation. So that's the 6. So it is a very comprehensive plan. All of those are included. There are recommendations for each one of those. We did quite a bit of studying of existing conditions and plan future conditions. And hopefully it will set the county up in a very meaningful way to pursue each of those modes and pursue additional projects and improvements in each of those areas and make Johnston County a much more multimodal county. There's 170 miles of roadway recommendations in the plan. There's 88 miles of bicycle and pedestrian facilities in the plan, so as again, significantly more multimodal. And I would say this is in keeping with trends that we see in multimodal transportation planning efforts at the municipal and the county level. There's a lot of desire from the public for multimodal facilities, and that is we saw that in Johnston County, and it's absolutely reflected in the plan. And there's 14 intersection improvements in the plan where we, through review of traffic data, crash data, saw a need for some operational improvements, some safety improvements. So it gives some very targeted recommendations on how to improve current operational and safety issues. I thought it also might be interesting to share with you some things that are different from the previous plan. You might know the previous plan is about 11 years old, so you can imagine a lot has happened in the last 11 years. But the first thing, I think one of the most important thing is now really getting caught up to be consistent with recent planning efforts. Obviously, the comprehensive land use plan was a key component in what we looked at in this plan, but to be consistent with things like NCDOT's STIP, to be consistent with Campo's Southeast Area Study, a host of other plans, but this really gets this plan in line with the other work that's happened in the last 11 years, and quite frankly, much more recent than 11 years. There's been a lot of planning related to transportation and land use that has involved Johnston County, and so now we're caught up, which is a good thing. It is significantly less highway focused. A large reason for that is a lot of the highway projects have been done in the last 11 years, so that's a very good thing. This plan is much more, as I mentioned in the vision, focused on moving people within the county. There are absolutely still recommendations that connect Johnston County to the region. That is important, but there are a lot of new recommendations in the plan that are very focused on connecting people within Johnston County. As I mentioned, it is significantly more multimodal, particularly within unincorporated areas. And once we get through the Greenway Master Plan process that's proceeding right now, and those recommendations are included in the Planning Department's set of plans and incorporated into the CTP, it will be even more multimodal. So I think, again, that's a very good thing for the county. The other thing that I think is really going to be a benefit from on a day-to-day basis is going to be the plan includes a digital map of the recommendations with linked dimensional cross-sections. So a developer, a member of the public can go to their site of interest, and if there is a recommendation in that area, they can click on that specific recommendation and see the cross-section. I think that's going to be a huge help It's a lot easier than looking at a paper map or an online PDF map. I think this is going to be a big advancement. It's be something that can be posted on the county's website. We're very proud of that, and we've seen a lot of use from that digital element in other plans that we've done. So those are some of the key differences with the previous plan. I also wanted to mention to you some of the ordinance recommendations that are going into the plan and talk you through a couple of those just so you're clear with what we are recommending. And this was done in very, very close collaboration with the planning department and also, you know, various types of input. But the first is if there is a recommendation along the roadway frontage of a new development or rezoning, anything that's going to happen that's going to change what happens on or what's constructed on a parcel, our recommendation is going to be to dedicate along that roadway frontage half of the cross section. So a lot of the roadways in Johnston County, particularly like the NC routes, will be 60-foot wide right of way. So let's say it's recommended to be widened to a 4-lane where you may have 120, 140-foot wide right of way. The developer would be asked to dedicate half of that right of way. Now, notice that does not say build half of the cross section. That's a key distinction. Dedication of the right of way makes the right of way available for a future roadway widening, makes that roadway widening significantly less expensive. When you build half the cross section, you end up piecemealing corridors, and you've got section of pavement that aren't utilized, that aren't driven on, that aren't kept clean, that deteriorate quite a bit faster than pavement that is used. So that's why we stuck with dedicating the half of the right-of-way along the frontage of the development. It also means that future development improvements are set back again. So when a project comes through, you're not impacting houses, you're not impacting entry monuments, you're not impacting major utilities. So again, that's going to really help future transportation projects move forward. For new location roadways, and I put this qualifier in here because there are really only about 8 miles of new roadway recommendations. Again, a lot of this is widening of existing facilities, but there are some. If you're at the end of a new facility, or you're at the end of a piece of that facility that's already been constructed, build that new facility. Projects have to get started somewhere. If you're at the start of a project, we want to have that constructed. If you're at the adjacent to a piece that has already been constructed, continue that through the development. If that new project, however, if that new project is not funded for construction, reserve that right away. Again, because roadway projects can take a long time to get under construction. So if it hadn't been built, it's not funded in any other plan for like the NCDOT step for construction, reserve that right away. Again, we've moved away from dedication on that because again, that can mean putting out right of way and it being dedicated, whether NCDOT would want to take it or not, putting it in the county's hands, and there be some long-term undetermined time of when a roadway project might be constructed. Same thing for greenways, except because greenways have a shorter time frame typically for construction, and also because they're significantly less, well, I hadn't counted up the mileage on greenways, but dedicate that right of way instead of reserving it. Again, the expectation for greenway projects is they won't necessarily take as long as some of the longer term roadway projects would. So go ahead and move forward with dedication of that right of way, and particularly because that right of way would typically be owned by the county anyway, go ahead and dedicate that. But as I mentioned, for the roadway construction, go ahead and construct that greenway if you're at the end or adjacent to a segment. I've said a lot there. Any questions relative to that?
Could you explain
For sure.
the difference between dedication and reservation
Absolutely.
of the right of way?
So dedication means you would be signing that property over to NCDOT or to the county. Reserving it would be you would be constructing the development in a manner where that right of way could be purchased later without major impacts to facilities. That doesn't mean you can't put a road through it. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't put a parking lot on it. But you would be working with the planning department to set that right of way up so that it could be could be purchased and then easily constructed later. Again, we don't necessarily think it's fair for long-term transportation projects to be tying up large portions of parcels for something that might not be built for a long time out.
Has there not been lawsuits over that?
They're absolutely happy.
Yeah, that was my
That's what I
question.
thought.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
about if you reserve it and it's going to be an indefinite period before it may actually be built on, who maintains it?
The homeowners association or the owner of the property would be responsible for maintaining it. And that's why we've got that piece in there, working with the planning department to, design it and reserve it in such a way that it doesn't create an eyesore, doesn't create a nuisance, that it doesn't, completely lose the utility of that right of way. That's not the intent with any of this. The intent is to, when a project moves forward in the future, you don't want to go in and taking out houses. You don't want to be taking out buildings, right? And again, from a roadway standpoint, we're only talking about 8 miles of roads. It's not a significant impact. The greenways is probably a bit more, you're going to run into situations where, greenways are going to play into this a bit more. But again, with greenways, you've got significant more leeway from a constructability standpoint of how to integrate that greenway into the facility or into the development, if you will. You're not worried about, curve radii and all those things that roadway engineers worry about when we're designing roads.
Can you break it down for our citizens when you say, reserve or dedicate this space for the right-of-way? How many feet approximately are you talking?
It is very dependent on the facility. Again, as y'all know, most of the right-of-ways within residential subdivisions now are 50-foot wide right-of-ways. Most of the right-of-ways for 2-lane NC routes in Johnston County are 60-foot wide right-of-ways. So again, it can go up for there depending on the facility. And greenways can be significantly smaller than that, depending on the type of greenway, the type of traffic you're going to have on it, 12, 14-foot wide multi-use path. Again, the drainage will dictate the greenway right-of-way in a lot of areas and ways, and you've got more flexibility with the right-of-way of a greenway, because you're not considering like run off the road crashes and things of that nature. Also, again, with greenways too, you are typically routing those in low spots and among, adjacent to bodies of water and that nature. So,
I don't think you answered the question. 60-foot road would be 30 feet.
Well, I just,
Well-
for the layman citizen, I don't want them thinking that now you know what I mean? When you hear right-of-way, you're thinking a lot of space, and then he's saying half, and so
Right.
I just wanted to help them understand what half of that number was.
yeah,
So thank you.
don't think I-40 or
Yeah,
I-95. Think, if you're in your subdivision, light pole to light pole.
Right.
That's closer. Thank you, Mr. Gully. I need all the help I can get.
Yeah, I do like the idea as I ride other places and you see what's wide streets. I know we see subdivisions built right to the 2-lane section and there is no available right-of-way to be had other than buying houses. So I do like the fact that we get the dedication, I guess, on the existing pieces and even the reservations. So we don't pin ourselves into a 2-lane road that can't be widened without tremendous expense
Exactly.
in acquisition of the right-of-way.
Exactly. Yeah, and you really don't want piecemeal roads. I mean, you see that in municipalities. It's a little bit of a different situation in municipality. You can make those piecemeal connections. You're not talking over long distances. I mean, if you look in this plan, NC 39 is recommended to be widened, and that's a long distance, long project. You don't want to be piecemeal in that road. So just dedicating the right of way makes significantly more sense in a county setting.
I will say, I really appreciate the fact that we have a lot of things coming together. We've got our ordinances, we have our land use plan, we've got Southeast areas, a lot of things that have coming together, and being able to get that as close together and as one cohesive document or set of documents as we can. I think that's be very helpful to the future and see the type growth that we would like to see.
It's certainly going to make a difference, for sure.
You know, when we first started talking about a transportation plan, we're always at the mercy of the DOT, what they can do. And being on the RPO, I realize, of course, we get pretty good consideration in the region that we're in. But DOT is strapped for funds right now, but I see a real value in what you're talking about with this dedicated right-of-ways and that sort of thing, in planning what we want to do.
Right-of-way is a significant component of any project cost, particularly when you've got right-of-way with things in it. So to the degree that we can avoid creating issues down the road and having things constructed in the right-of-way that have got to be demolished, have to be moved, that's a good direction for the county.
And I will add to that, as we're talking about the Upper Coastal Plain RPO and then the capital area MPO, that to get to the ultimate DOT funding, we have to start with our own plan.
That's right, we gotta have a plan.
And so this will, it's 11 years in the making, but we will have an updated plan that will hopefully open some doors to getting on the STIP and other projects that are funded, maybe I know a lot quicker than we don't have a plan.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And fortunately also, I mentioned that online mapping component. That also makes updating it significantly easier because you're just going in and you're changing some line work in a GIS file and some descriptions. You're not remaking a PDF paper map. So that, I think, will put a lot more functionality and flexibility in the hands of the planning department when adjustments are needed. And adjustments are needed at times. I mean, this is a large-scale planning effort. When you get down to looking at specific projects and how those connections are made, there are often times where amendments are needed, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But with the online tool, you'll be able to make those a lot quicker.
well, hopefully with the addition of a long-range planning person in our planning department, that will become easier to do and update more frequently.
That'll be an asset as well.
Mr. Chairman, I have one
Yes, sir.
final question about the reservation of these easements. What does that imply in terms of underground utilities that are installed initially? Is the reservation on one side, so you can install your utilities on the other side, so you don't have to move them later?
So are you asking about for the new roadway with the reservation or the dedication of half of the right-of-way for the cross section?
Well, reservation of the road, I mean, you're gonna put utilities in, but at some point in time, you may come back and use the balance of that area of that reserved easement.
Right.
You don't want it loaded up with utilities. You gotta go out there and have the utility manager move all those.
Right. I mean, you would want to make some smart choices on how utilities are going to cross that easement. Obviously, within the right-of-way itself, there is room on either side of the roadway that is typically reserved for utilities as well. So you absolutely could put utilities within the edge of the right-of-way that is reserved. It wouldn't preclude utilities within that area as well. So again, I think that's a scenario where you work with the planning department to really just make a smart decision on how you lay it out, where you put things like utilities, again, with the intent being that at such time the roadway or greenway is constructed, we're not moving big things.
Okay.
So here's where we need a little bit of feedback from you. This is a proposed schedule for bringing this forward for adoption. August 18th would be the official presentation of the document to you. The 19th would go to the planning board, and then September 2nd would be the public hearing and adoption. We're absolutely flexible on our end to adjust that. Brest, I don't know if you want to get feedback now, or is that just something you want to get feedback on later, but this is what we're prepared to meet at this point, but again, happy to flex to whatever makes the most sense for you.
So I'll just say is and I say review, but with the MPO and the RPO for them, and they may have already been involved, but to have them take a look for consistency within, I'm more familiar with the Campo plans than I am with the Upper Coastal Plain, but is that part of this process? Does it allow enough time for them to take a look at it for that?
We can certainly contact, I think be more concerned with Campo, but we can certainly contact both organizations and find out, and we can adjust the schedule accordingly. I think biggest issue is getting it to public hearing get the public hearing done. And I think in this time frame, this will give both organizations a month, roughly, a little over a month to get that September public hearing date and then have an adoption at a subsequent meeting thereafter. That give us enough time actually to get it up and get it.
So we can work on our
I think this-
RPO and MPO to
I
get
think
to
this
this
is
schedule.
realistic, and I don't think it'd take much for the RPO to turn it around.
Yeah, I'll say McAdams has done an excellent job at ensuring that they've included, coordinated with both the MPO and the RPO, and included that data into this plan as well. And it's just simply giving them the opportunity to ensure that that data is represented accurately. We haven't misrepresented anything. We don't want to do anything. We understand that we're still a regional component of both of Campo and RPO. Or up coastal plan.
All right. I like the schedule. I did have
Yeah, I think so, all right.
a couple more, a question, the broad question. So we heard about you said it's much more than roads. We heard greenways, so we heard the ped and bike and roads, but any highlights on the rail and the aviation component of that?
Sure. So the aviation component is primarily integration of JNX's airport layout master plan into the document itself, working with them to make sure the roadway recommendations in the vicinity of the airport are in keeping with what their vision is for the future. From the rail component, it does include a new recommendation for a passenger rail station east of Clayton along the existing rail line between Clayton and Selma. That is something that Clayton has also included in their comprehensive transportation plan. I'm not 100% sure if they landed in that spot or in downtown, but I think the important point there is a passenger rail station between Raleigh and Selma. So that will give some direction to future studies that could help bring some additional specificity to where that rail station might be best located. And then transit component, there's some various transit recommendations that we've developed in partnership with JCATS.
Okay. Yeah, and I know now that Clayton is its own urbanized, I'd say Clayton Archer Lodge and part of Cleveland is, so there's some funding coming for that as well that I think, well, I'm not sure if that's going to be Go Raleigh or what that's going to be for that, but I know it's still being looked at. So, well, I appreciate what you've done, and again, like you said, collaboration with many other agencies and folks in this, and I appreciate the input of the public. That is always good to see that. So
Absolutely. The point of this plan really is to be comprehensive. That comprehensive is an important element here. So it requires a lot of coordination with member agencies and the RPO, MPO, JCATS. I mean, everybody has been very willing and forthcoming, and we're very thankful for them for their active participation. We did have a steering committee and stakeholder committees that were very active participants and gave us a lot of data and insight into the thinking behind their recommendations, which informed what we did here. So it should be very consistent with what they have planned. But again, builds on it too, where it's not just a copy of what's already in other plans. It's to tweak it and make it right for what Johnston County needs. And again, some new things in the plan as well that aren't in existing plans, but that's why we do this process. And again, hopefully it'll serve as a great tool for the county for many years into the future.
yeah, I hope like the land use plan, it will be updated more frequently by future boards than the last ones have been. I guess we look forward to seeing you then on the 18th.
Yes, sir. If you have any other questions between now and then, don't hesitate to reach out to me at all. But yeah, we'll look forward to the 18th. And I will say too, and I'll mention it again on the 18th and 19th and the 2nd, but it's been an absolute pleasure working with staff. They've done an amazing job. Again, serving on those committees, giving us good direction, but just being good partners in the development of this plan. We couldn't have done it without them. I think y'all know what a great staff you have, and they've done a wonderful job on this. So big thanks to them.
I do have one
Will.
quick question, because I actually had a constituent ask me just this weekend about future plans for bike paths. Is there anywhere that the citizens, consumers can find this proposal online anywhere?
I'll have to check and see if we did have an interactive map posted online as part of the public engagement process. I'll have to check and make sure that it's on there still. I'll send you a note and you can send that along to
Or I would just say to our PO to make sure we're getting it out there to as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Mr. Newton, I believe you have a update on our UDO.
I do, yes, sir. I'm going to make this brief, as we do have our consultant coming in your first meeting in August. I believe that to be August 7th. But just wanted to give you a quick update as to where we're at and some of the progress we have made. So, as you'll see in this table or in this spreadsheet, these are the various chapters and divisions of the ordinance that we are working through. This is a lot, to say the least. So these in the yellow at the very top, we should be receiving sections of these articles this week. And staff will begin review of these for consistency, not only with our land use plan, but also with statutory concerns, authoritative concerns with regard to our general statutes. We are in now the probably second and third review of some articles as well and sections within these chapters as well. And we are nearing a full draft in those sections, so we should have those available to not only the board, but to the public for initial review here in the next month. So it's been extremely busy. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of coordination between staff and the consultant, and that has gone well. We've had every 2 weeks we've been having meetings with the consultant to review this information, and we feel good about thus far. We feel good about the product we've received and about the content. So as you all may know, and for the public's edification, we did have a number of meetings, public meetings to get feedback with regard to the information that we're proposing over the month of June. And these 7 meetings were held in each of the election or electoral districts of the commissioners. And we do feel good about the comments we did receive. We had better participation at some than we did others. But there's still time. That's the good news. So as this information gets out and gets posted on our website and gets disseminated, we just urge the community to contact Johnston County Planning with any thoughts or recommendations there. So where are we going with our next steps? Kimley Horn, once again, will be here August the 7th to do a more detailed update. They have been compiling documents for staff review, as you saw by the spreadsheet earlier. And we're looking for a September timeframe of a presentation of, I hate to place importance on any one portion of the document other than over others, but to some of the more significant areas of the document, areas of the ordinance. And you will see that hopefully in that September, at one of those 2 September meetings.
But just a quick check,
Yes.
August 4th?
Is it 4th?
Yeah, August 4th.
August
yeah.
4th, sorry.
Okay.
My bad. So with that, as you will notice on here, you do see some new, what we're calling paper districts. Just want to remind this body as well as your constituents, that we're seeing paper districts because there is some legislation that has been adopted or ratified by our legislature that kind of prohibits us from amending doing a initiated, lose my term, but anyway, doing essentially a zoning, initiating a zoning which is not initiated by a owner of property, so a government initiated down zoning of properties. So we're going to create these districts in case that is repealed, and this is paramount to us realizing our land use plan in Vision Johnston. So those paper districts are going to be districts, they just will not be noted on a map at this time until we have some resolution there with regard to that legislation. So with that being said, that is a brief update as to where we're at. I'm glad to take any questions you may have and respond to those or take any direction.
Any questions, comments from the board? All right, we look forward to hearing more on the 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, manager reports and comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Just wanted to update you on a project that the Golden Leaf Foundation has in place. I think the last time was about 5 years ago, where they have what they call community-based grants. And so for the counties in the region, it says the county manager can submit up to 4 projects for $2 million, and they'll grant up to 3 projects, no more than 1.5 total for each county. Now, there's no guarantee of funding at all. So they had a workshop there about 6 weeks ago in Rocky Mount, and a lot of people from Johnston County attended that to look at submitting a project. A lot of this is jobs-based, things of that nature that you normally see with economic development type grants. So we've had some interest from some local groups on this project. By August 4th, we are to submit projects for informal review by Golden Leaf to see if they even fit. Many do not even fit the qualifications that they have. And then by September the 8th, we are to submit final recommendation for those funds. One project could get all $1.5 million. So I'll keep you posted as we go along on this. It's still kind of early, and but I'll certainly be coming back for some board feedback on this as well. So just wanted to keep you in the loop on how that's going. Anybody got any questions? Or
You may if you try.
Sir?
You may if you try.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you
All right,
all.
thanks. All right, board reports and comments. I'll start on this side this evening. Commissioner Godwin,
I don't have anything.
they reserve the right to come back to you. How about that?
All right.
All right, Commissioner Stovall.
Nothing tonight.
I was just going to comment on the wonderful lunch we had today with Soil and Water. It was really great to see all the efforts that are being done in the county with farmland preservation, as well as water and conserving our natural resources, and all the different programs and ways that they're all working together with all the different parts of Soil and Water and local government agencies. It was really eye-opening and really great to see and hear about what all they're doing.
Very good.
So I've had a very eventful week. I just want to brag on our entire county. I have gone from, with public safety being a huge priority of ours, I have gone from calling 911 to now at the Johnston County Hospice House in the past week. And when I tell you, I have not had one person that I have come in contact with in Johnston County that has any way not been above and beyond with regards to the level of service we received, from the 911 operator to the fire department and the EMTs to our UNC hospital here. I mean, just the amount of people that were like, you need to get her transferred to Wake County and this, that, and the other. And I was like, absolutely not. You cannot find the type of care that we have here, from nursing assistants who are taking advantage of the commissioner's promise, and now the hospice house. Like, I don't know that I've ever been so proud to be a representative of this county, just in the way personally we have been treated all week long. And I just want to give kudos to everybody that is working with and for all of the citizens in the county and taking care of them, because we have above and beyond outstanding people in all of our organizations with regards to public safety. So
I would just say, in keeping with our challenge going and the words that we had, compassionate and responsive, seemed to fit what you just described.
1,000,000% and then some.
Thank you. And your prayers are with you and your family.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Rose, you got to follow that.
I was going to say something, but I'll pass. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Vice Chairman Harris.
No, sir, I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
And I will build on what Commissioner Stevens said, and not do it near as eloquently or as passionately as she did. But this morning, we talked a lot about our departments, our county employees, and what they bring to the citizens of Johnston County. You know, every day they're doing their, and it's not just a day a week or a couple of days a week that they randomly pick. They show up every day. They do their job, and I just took the 4 words off of there. So the 4 words that we use to describe our employees, and I dare say the citizens of Johnston County, are empowering, compassionate, responsive, and visionary. And we talked about that this morning, and didn't come to mind until Commissioner Stevens said what she did. But I want to thank again the county employees for what they do, who they are, not just once in a while, but every day. So, anyone else have anything?
No, sir. Well said.
All right. All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.